Nederlandse film. Zie je op het Nederlands Filmfestival 27 september tot en met 5 oktober in Utrecht.
Hello, welcome everyone. So nice that you are all here. We are also very happy to be here. My name is Lillian and I'm organizing the hymn together with Margarita Osipian, who is in the back, and Marco, who is operating the slides. He's sitting behind the laptop. And this is our first the hymn in Utrecht. And I was very curious, who has ever been to a the hymn event before? I see some hands. Some of you are new. For those of them who have no clue where they are, the hymn is a platform for internet cultures. We try to understand this overwhelming world that we call the internet. And we do that by organizing events like this. Besides that, this year we publish 7 essays on urgent topics that we want to explore in greater depth. So we've published an essay about Instagram and how it is influencing art and musea as well. And we've published an essay about Article 13 and its impact. This is the new copyright law and the impact of it on artists, for instance. Yeah, and we recently started something new. Oh yeah, that is now telling what we do. But I had a question first, actually. Who of you have Telegram installed on their smartphone? Great. If you don't have it and you also have no idea what it is, Telegram is a chat app like WhatsApp. And I can recommend you to download it just because of their great and also weird sticker collection. And besides that, we have started a Telegram channel, which you can follow. You can go to this link or copy this QR code, and then you will join our channel. And on this channel, we will filter the internet for you. And we will weekly share some interesting links or relevant articles. We started with this last Saturday, actually, and just to show you what to expect, this was an article that we... Next slide. Yeah, this was an article that we shared. It is about TikTok and the mechanism behind it of it. Yeah, and we will. TikTok is a emerging video platform, and we will talk more about it later this evening. Yeah, so tonight, when the Nederlands Filmfestival was inviting us, we started searching for speakers that are working at the intersection of filmmaking and the internet. Makers, thinkers, and artists. And I think we have a great collection of speakers tonight with a very broad range of topics. We go from TikTok to VR and from live streaming to YouTube algorithms. We have a very strict format. There will be 10 speakers. Each of them is telling their story in exactly 5 minutes. And after every talk, there's time for some questions. I think we should just start to have as much time for the speakers and their stories. And yeah, the first speaker is actually one of the most well-known ASMR artists in the Netherlands, and I'm very happy to have her here tonight. So please have a big applause for Isabel Meijering.
Microphone or
you can use that.
Ah, sure. Hello. So, yep, this is me. Isabel Meijering is my name. and I'm 30 years old. I live in downtown Nijmegen, and I have an apartment at the 6th floor, and on my 2nd bedroom I have a recording studio because I make ASMR videos for about 3 years now on YouTube. And on YouTube, I have 275,000 followers, which is enough for me to live off of that, which is good because I love doing it. I'm kind of a filmmaker slash YouTuber slash influencer. I don't even know what I am exactly, but I'm loving it. So what is ASMR? Does anybody know what ASMR is in the audience? Oh, wow. Nice. I bet you're thinking, I guess whisper videos, right? Or eating videos. It's actually really broad. So ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. That doesn't really say anything, but it is a scientific term for a relaxing feeling that you get when you hear a certain sound, or when you see a certain visual, or when you get certain personal attention. It's really broad. So you can see a cat purring is ASMR, raindrops is ASMR, whispering is ASMR, candles is ASMR. So it's really broad. But my goal and my vision kind of my channel is to do role plays. And I know you're thinking, so it's kind of sexual, you have a doctor's appointment. No, it's not, because it's meant to help you sleep better. That's the main goal of why I want to do what I do, because I help people with insomnia, with depressions, with anxieties, with stress. So it's really rewarding for me to do that. But I also just really love movies and I love series, and I thought, how can I combine the two? So I've been experimenting for these 3 years with how do you make a movie relaxing enough to fall asleep to. And that's kind of still something that I'm searching for, but I am like a one-woman's production company, I guess. There's nobody else helping me, which means that I spend a lot of time behind the computer. It's pretty nerdy, actually, because like an imaginative role play that you see like this, Harley Quinn or something like that, it takes about 15 to 20 hours to produce. So if you make 2 videos a week, yep, you have enough to be tired at the end of the week. And as you can tell, it's really, really, really broad. Now, what is my goal for, what's my next step, I guess, is to make better quality. So better quality sound, better quality vision. I'm thinking VR, ASMR. And actually, that's really, it might be realistic, because there are scientists that actually are discovering that ASMR might be therapeutic. So maybe it's kind of mindfulness. And how cool would it be to, when you are too stressed because of today's society, that you can just go to a virtual reality ASMR world where you are in a fairy tale world where the butterflies are flapping its wings in slow motion around you, and you hear whispers, and I don't know, you're just kind of in a Lord of the Rings kind of atmosphere. That's kind of my goal for the future. I'm not there yet, but yeah, that's kind of my vision. And also, it's really targeted, some of the videos are really targeted at kids. As you can tell by the images, it's really, really broad. I'm seeing a lot of faces that are a little bit thinking, like, what exactly are you doing? It's just relaxing videos that really help people sleep and really help people relax. And I don't know, I feel like it's a challenge to find more interesting ways to do that than just tapping on a little, I don't know, wooden board, or because ASMR is expanding so widely, and everybody nowadays seems to have a microphone in their living room and whispering little sounds into the microphone and calling it ASMR. And that's why I want to make a difference in the ASMR world. And I think this is the way to go. This is my way of doing that. So I've been talking too much. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening, guys.
Thanks. You have a lot of viewers.
Yes.
Do you also, you said, yeah, you want to help them get to sleep or help them with depression. Do you have contact with them? Is it working?
Yeah. Should I stand over here? Yes, it is. Yeah, yep, yes, it is. I have a lot of contact with my viewers because they DM me all the time. I get like 100 messages a day of people who feel some type of way about ASMR, which is 97% of the time really, really positive. So it's a really loving community, which is nice because that's not always the case on social media. Mm-hmm. So ASMR is like a lovely community to be a part of. Yes.
Are there any questions? Yeah, a lot.
Hugo.
Yeah, we can hear. I think.
Everybody.
Yeah.
We're talking about the overlap between cinema and sleep.
Yes.
Something that you want to explore.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of references to very popular films.
Yes.
But are you also interested, for instance, in the slow cinema movement? Because there's a lot of research about the overlap between dreams and slow cinema. For instance, you have this Thai filmmaker called Apichat Poonweerasatku.
Mm-hmm. Wow, never heard of him. I'm sorry.
Last year in Rotterdam, he
Yeah.
had a sleep cinema hotel.
Cool.
Where people could fall asleep during his video installations.
Yeah, it's an honor for me when people fall asleep during my videos. Yes.
And he always encourages people to fall asleep during his movies. So
Yeah.
it's not really a question, but maybe just like there's a lot to gain by exploring also maybe the non-popular cinema formats.
Sure, yes, sure. But because I live off of YouTube, I need to make it for the masses. So it has to appeal to the masses.
I have a question.
Sure.
Would you be like, do you aim in the future to find enough money to also explore a more artistic,
I mean, sure. That's obviously you want to keep it artful and you want to express yourself, but I feel like I mean, I don't have 1 million subscribers. I don't have that follower network yet to be really stepping outside of the box, and people might not understand if I do that right now, and I might lose my followers. So right now I'm being super commercial. I'm sorry, but maybe in the future, I never know.
Does that feel as a burden?
No, I love commercial movies. I'm sorry if I'm not being popular right now, but I love these movies. Okay, good. No, I love a lot of things, but I stick to what is appealing to the masses. It's just from a commercial standpoint.
And another question, yeah.
Do you also experience like the pleasure?
Yes.
So is it comforting for you to make the video?
Make the video.
Sorry, is everyone hearing the question?
If
Yes? Okay.
if it's ASMR for me to produce the videos, sometimes. But let me tell you, the microphone that I use picks up absolutely everything. So if I have a stomach rumble, if I've just had eaten lunch, then it's like a volcano sound. So if I have my earbuds in, that's not really relaxing, and I focus too much on details, and I'm super perfectionistic. So not when I do these imaginative videos, but when I do a simple video where I just get an object and make sounds with them, yes, sometimes I really get super sleepy and tingly because the ASMR feeling is tingles in the back of your head and waves of goosebumps all over your body. And some people have them, some people don't. It has to do with network connections in your brains, I guess. But I'm not a scientist.
What is your favorite sound?
A whisper is my ultimate favorite sound.
Last question.
Yeah, I was wondering, where do you get the inspiration for new ASMR sounds and activities? Because you want to be different than the rest, so
Yes.
how do you get the new stuff?
Because I'm a film lover and a series lover, I just see what's out there on Netflix, pretty much, and I try and see how I can make a relaxing video out of it. But also when I walk on the street and I see something that's super relaxing, or when I have tingles in real life. So it can be just about anything that triggers me. Sometimes when I go to a hair salon, I feel like when I get the tingles, I'm like, oh yeah, I really need to make a video out of this. So it can be absolutely anything.
What was like the weirdest thing that gave you the ASMR tingles?
Microblading my eyebrows. When somebody put a knife on my skin, it was super tingly because I was numb. So, yeah, and there are actually role plays of microblading eyebrows online, and like the weirdest thing, like chiropractor role plays where they crack the joints and everything. Yeah, no judgment there.
Last thing, because this week you're actually gonna do a ASMR live session, right?
Yes.
In Tivoli.
Here in Utrecht.
Yeah.
It's the first time ever in Holland. How cool is that? So I think there are about 150 people coming, and I am going to make really relaxing sounds, and I hope that people have almost the same experience as going to a concert, but then just getting relaxed like a spa or something. I don't know. And I hope that it's going to be as normal as going to a concert. I'm just going to go to an ASMR concert. Yeah, I'm just going to go chill, maybe sleep a little bit.
Are there still tickets available?
Yes, there are. If you want to join me, then you can. It's October 5th. So it's this Saturday. And it's $12.50, I think. Euros to be a part of it, and it's 2 times 25 minutes. And the one is traditional ASMR, and the other part is more guided meditation, so more mindfulness. And it's going to be awesome, I think. I hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Bogomir Dorringer, and he will introduce us to the term dance of urgency. Please have a warm welcome for Bogomir.
Hello. So 5 minutes. So in 1999 in Belgrade, Serbia, during the NATO bombing, I was age of 16. And we actually went to a techno club called Industrija during the urgency. So the dance was somehow introduced to me as a kind of a revolt, as a protest, as a way of actually dealing with potential death or going, maybe mocking of potential death, but it was a model of a survival. So when I moved to Netherlands in 2004, I was a little bit shocked and disappointed with no urgency on a dance floor, because the urgency did not express itself even in the way people dance. So simply the bodies were numb, and I was, let's say, the training delay, so I missed the 90s and the rave culture there. So what I started doing, I started understanding that there are different dances and there are different kinds of clubbing. So my idea was to attach the camera above the dance floor and start filming these rituals and interactions between people, to kind of try to understand what dances are happening in the clubs, in what conditions, what are the distances, what are the directions, intentions, meaning, to kind of ask people what do they dance for, why do they dance. And the more I was doing this, the more I was realizing that the values of the places and clubs and festivals reflect themselves into the bodies of people. But also the more I realized that if I travel to countries like Brazil or Georgia or Ukraine, the dance that I remember would be traced, as you see on this example, in Georgia and Bassiani. So somehow my question was, how do these choreographies resonate with socio-political environment in which they're placed? And by function, yeah, dance can be all this. So it can be social, it can be ceremonial, erotic, liturgical, it can be martial, competitive. And what is missing in definition of dance is political, which is actually happening a lot at the moment. And this is what I remember from 90s. So questioning with this political would be quite ridiculous, because the hippie movement, even voguing, which was reclaiming of a space for African-American community that doesn't have a space, is something that we're very much familiar with. Still, the political is constantly being questioned. If we look into the Toi-Toi dance from Zimbabwe, it was a way of creating a collective body. So without a weapon, this one collective body will become a protest against the regime. This dance is, by the way, forbidden now. So music and resistance was more introduced to me through underground resistance, the Detroit collective that looked into the history of African drum through the slavery and how it came back through the music. So I would like you to hear something now.
The revolution will not be televised.
This sound or this drum was through music brought to all of us, to Westerners, and we are bouncing our bodies to it today. What is also important is that this sound was purposely brought to the Club Tresor in Berlin at the end of the 80s when the wall fell down, because Dimitri Hegemann, founder of the club, knew that the language will not unite East and West, but actually a beat and a non-verbal repetitive beats. What's also interesting here, and it came out of the research, is that all these industrial ruins, so basically empty spaces unused, would always be populated through dance and recovered, which is a very classic old school ritual of recovering the land or asking for birth of land through dance. The event that took place a year ago in Georgia that some of you maybe know is that the people gathered in front of parliament and danced for 2 days. They danced for the youth that thinks differently, the youth that demands the values that are not maybe pro-Soviet. And this event was broadcasted all over the place. The internet played a very important role in this. But also just a week later, this exotic dance that is happening outside of EU came to Berlin, where anti-fascist protest was organized by club owners, music festivals. And suddenly discussing if the dance is political or not is over. What we're experiencing in Netherlands as well, with all these kind of ideas of inclusivity, space for queer community, it's actually now happening all the place. Amsterdam Dance Event this year has pretty much focused on that. A few years ago, you wouldn't be allowed to speak about this topic. So I actually don't remember my last slide, but I guess I would like to bring that the project that started from bird's eye view, so filming of crowds, brought me to a definition of a dance that is now my PhD and something that I'm working on. And it's called dance of urgency. So dance of urgency is at this moment defined as a dance that takes place in time of personal and collective crisis. It aims to empower individual or collective, and it's temporary. So sooner or later, it disappears. And we're living in a moment where the dance of urgency is pretty much spreading. So at the moment, it's even attaching itself to the climate and all other different topics. So yeah, this is the fastest I could do it. Yeah, thank you.
I was wondering, because you said that when you arrived in the Netherlands in 2004, you were a bit disappointed. Yeah. Do you think there's changed a bit if you will look at the club scene now?
Yes. That was how originally the project started, was that we don't maybe have to experience the dance of urgency, maybe can somehow redirect things. Because all the issues that we're discussing now with the right-wing populism, like #MeToo or machism, or this was all visible on a dance floor. Girls do not feel comfortable on a dance floor very often. Or
you mean that was the reason that?
No, I just want to say this was already visible like 10 years ago if you were just watching to the crowds and dance floors. So we didn't need to wait Trump to be elected to discuss this topic. But the problem is that nobody is really looking into crowds and what they're communicating. And what they're communicating in a nightlife, it's non-verbal, but it's pretty much clear. Like, if we understand dance as an artistic expression on a stage, why wouldn't be in a club? Plus, people are in altered state of consciousness. They're high. Netherlands is quite high every weekend. So we are not talking about very controlled behaving. So this was, but what I also noticed is that there were just so many abusive models in Netherlands, especially for music clubs and club owners, where, you're kind of thrown on a dance floor and just beaten up for sake of economy. And I just couldn't stand this. So I hope that actually, by doing this filming, I would somehow be able to redirect things, but the things are redirecting now when it's already kind of, the urgency is now. Yeah. So yeah, it was like watching clouds and seeing if there's going to be rain or not.
Yeah. Are Are there any questions for both of you? Another one? Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite writers about electronic music and dance culture is Mark Fisher, and how he wrote about the dance continuum or the hardcore continuum.
Okay.
But I was wondering, what are some of the, because you practice this on a PhD and academic level, what are some of the texts or some of the writers or thinkers that have inspired your critical thinking about dance culture?
Well, I always had the problem. So I'm first doing artistic research, so I'm hoping that I'm not going to end up in academic discourse because it's more. But no. But just so I will come back. So the point is that this clubbing was often studied from an angle of the economy status of people. Is this working class? Is this high society? How many Air Max sneakers are there, and etc. So what my interest was always to really kind of, this is like where I'm aiming, to understand what's happening in the body and on the collective body, which you can only see with the use of a bird's eye view. The most interesting publication that actually came a year ago is called Choromania, Dance and Disorder by Kelina Gottman. So it's interesting because she shows how historically dance has been oppressed by religion and interpreted always something demonic, being possessed. So the choromania of these unstoppable dances that happened like in the 14th and 15th century, and then later a few more times, were always described by church. So ravers at that time could possibly be just described as demons because they didn't fit in the frame of the society at the time. So this was very interesting to see, and also to see how unstoppable dancing is considered to be a madness, and it's being more threatening than, let's say, using of gun. So this is the most interesting publication. It came like last year, and I'm actually working with her. Crowds and Power from Canetti, maybe. Energy Flashes, of course, there's like a lot of interesting stuff, but for me, Choromania was interesting because it combines the nature science, social studies, philosophy, art, performance, and medical files from different periods. Yeah.
You had another question?
Yeah, you were saying that in Dutch clubs, I don't know if you were talking about the past or present, but you are thrown on the dance floor and you are beaten up by...
Yeah, you ask if there's a change. There is a change, yeah.
Yeah, what was the beaten up part?
Well, the beaten part is that for people who didn't experience different, they take this for granted. So they think that this is how it should be. So first of all, the dance floors are very competitive very often. You can't really be vulnerable. You can be grotesque, you can be wasted, but you can't just be nothing, let's say. So that's the one thing. So then another thing is that vulnerability is very important for dance floor. Like if you think of a boom festival where you have 17,000 people on LSD and it feels nice, good luck to do that in Amsterdam. So there's like, we're looking about particular models actually. But also what is just the way how you're treated. When you enter Dutch clubs, it's like entering somebody's house. You're being checked by security, you have lockers, you have coins, you have TikToks, you have to behave like this, you're not allowed to go to the toilet. So these are all the house rules that manifestates itself in the way how you perceive the space. So the values and the house rules are somehow resonating through the bodies of people as well. And the change came in Amsterdam through Garage Noord, Red Light Radio, the School, but they implemented particular rules and set of values that came from other countries and not from Netherlands. Yeah.
So small collectives, actually.
It's also mirroring of, let's say, Berghain influence, adjusting it, following the political discourse, the demand of a city to be more inclusive. So it's all the mix of things. Yeah.
One very last question. You?
No, I have so much question. Not super related to your research, but where would you start to define dance space as safe? What would be your standards for a safe space, or one that doesn't demand so much or doesn't beat you up?
Space in which you can be vulnerable. And this also comes, of course, from the decision of what kind of sets will be played. If the set is constantly for 12 hours just beating up to the maximum, you can't really be vulnerable because you will be spitted out from the crowd. So there is something about curating of space. And what's popular doesn't necessarily mean that is the right. So it's like a set of, it's experience. For me, the clubs are like art concepts. from the beginning till the end. You're going to long durational performance because you're playing out different things, you're dressing up, you're being masked, you're exposed to audio visuals, you're high or you're drinking beer and farting all the time. So, you know, they're like, this is a set of the rules. So, but it is an art experience. And it needs to have, so, but speaking of safe space, this is really like everybody says, like how to make a safer space. I think it's really sad that we live in times where this even has to be somehow discussed, but it is the truth.
What is your favorite club?
It's changing because clubs should not have a power. So I think they last for 5 years and then they collapse. So too much power, like for example Bergen has at the moment, is not good for because people start obeying it as a kind of higher temple of the. So they should come and go. It's temporary, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm dry so much. Sorry, this is so stressful. No. I always say I will not do this, but because yeah, I know you and I really wanted to do it for you, but it's super stressful. This 5 minutes model.
But it was so interesting.
No. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks
so
a lot.
By the way, we have an opening on 19th in a Kunstfort close to Amsterdam.
Where?
It's a Kunstfort. It's like an old defense of city of Amsterdam that everybody forgot, but it was supposed to be defense in 19th century. So there's going to be exhibition and some lineups with DJs who defends the club culture and values. Yeah.
Great. When is it?
19th.
Of October.
Yeah, it's actually somehow part of Amsterdam dance event, even that it's not in Amsterdam, but it was interesting to play with what is Amsterdam and what is not. And,
Great.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do go to a more academic talk, I think, because our next speaker is PhD candidate at the University of Amsterdam, and he's looking into YouTube algorithm. So please have a warm welcome for Paddy. He's here already.
Hi, guys. So you guys recognize this image, right? Up next. YouTube's deciding what you're going to see next. How does that make you feel? Curious? Excited? Just bored?
Annoyed.
Right. Annoyed. Good. In any case, my aim here is to make you feel uncomfortable about it. So let's start with a story. I've heard that's good. This band is called Cigarettes After Sex, and they've been around for more than a decade. And for most of that time, they weren't famous at all, until one day YouTube decided their algorithm liked their song. The song was out for 4 years by that point, and suddenly it started getting views. It started being recommended everywhere. By now it's at 60 million views. They got massive record label contracts. They're touring the world, and they're in Paradiso next month, I think. And they're just one story of many, right? This algorithm has a tremendous influence. Even not just careers, but genres are being defined. You know, Vice is talking about lo-fi house as the first genre of the algorithm age. So what's going on here? It's a pretty big shift. These are kind of decisions used to be made by professionals like record labels and agents, and now increasingly it's this algorithm which decides, makes or breaks careers. And the reason why often isn't as clear. And of course, this isn't just about music, right? Everything happens on YouTube nowadays. Not just ASMR, but comedy and documentary and makeup tutorials. You'd be surprised how popular those are. Children's entertainment. In all these cases, this algorithm is redefining genres and shaping our online culture. And this is true for politics as well. And that's where I think it gets really interesting. I searched for politics yesterday. This is my results. And, you know, I'm not sure if you can read them, but between, you know, Karl Marx and Borat, it's a pretty eclectic mix. And when you start studying these patterns, studying these mixes, you see patterns, right? So in the US elections in 2016, research shows that pro-Trump videos got 5 times as many recommendations on YouTube as pro-Hillary videos. Similar research is being done in Brazil right now, and the results also show that Bolsonaro is incredibly successful on YouTube, and that YouTube is really central to his media strategy. Even in the Netherlands, we're seeing similar trends. There's research from the TU Delft, which suggests very similarly that Thierry Baudet and his far-right views are very popular, and actually that his ideology, far-right ideology, gets more recommendations than any other or even any other ideology combined. So what I'm talking about here is agenda setting. right? In the same way that the professionals from record labels are being replaced by this algorithmic decision, so are the editorial decisions of newspapers. So politicians used to worry about what was on the front page of the New York Times. Nowadays, they need to worry about what's on the front page of YouTube. Could that decide an election? That's really hard to prove definitively. But in any case, a lot of people are worried that these algorithmic designers, their power can be a threat to democracy because they have such an influence. And that's where the law comes in. That's what I study. So the European Commission, for example, they're very worried about fake news. And for that reason, they want to regulate the algorithm to prioritize trustworthy sources, whatever that means, right? And in the US, it's the Republicans that are most proactive here, because they claim that platforms have an anti-conservative bias. And they want platforms to ensure political balance, which to me just sounds like showing more Republicans. So this is kind of creepy, right? We may not trust YouTube and we may not trust Facebook to set our agenda online, but having governments do it instead seems probably even more problematic. It kind of raises these free speech questions. And what's really creepy is that the platforms are playing along. They're not waiting for these laws to be passed. They're trying to cover their ass. And so this is the CEO of Google at the US Senate making all sorts of promises. And they're making all sorts of changes to their algorithm, basically to say, we can fix this for you, don't regulate us. So extremism, that's being downranked. Clickbait, that's being downranked. Anti-vaccine content is being downranked. Climate change denial, nah, they didn't downrank that. For whatever reason, they decided that was a bridge too far. But so, you know, they're constantly making these decisions. At a massive scale, they're influencing and tweaking in a more or less invisible way what gets seen online and what doesn't. And what I want to emphasize is that this isn't just commercial, right? These are political decisions. This isn't just about making money, it's about appeasing the powers that be. And so the next time you see this screen, realize there's a huge power struggle going on. We shouldn't just be talking about the attention economy, we should be talking about attention politics. So I know that sounds kind of grim, right? Are we really kind of stuck between two marks? Is it either Zuckerberg that calls the shot, or is it Rutte? Finding more like democratic ways of setting our agendas online, I think, is the key challenge for media today. And to do that, you need to follow me on Twitter. Thank you.
Can you give us one thing we see when we follow you on your
Besides
Twitter?
following me on Twitter?
Yeah.
I kind of expected that would be the question. It's hard. I'm only 1 year into my PhD research, but I think the intuition is, you know, this isn't the first time we've had to grapple with these questions. And, you know, how worried you are about this also depends on how much you used to trust what the New York Times was doing, right? I mean, that system wasn't perfect either, and powerful players were able to influence that too. I think the model that people with Dutch political sensibilities would have is to look at public broadcasting and what kind of things we did there to help remove these things from the market without giving them to Mark Rutte, right? And there are ways of doing that if you look at what public broadcasters did in the past. So we need to have ambitious institutional thinking, I think is the answer.
There's a question.
You already mentioned that social media has very much correlation to what the New York Times, for example, were doing. Can we say then that we as users of the internet, we just need a little bit of time to get used to this kind of content that is being put out on the internet, and instead of regulating the platforms, we should just wait for the people to create these filters themselves?
It's a great question, and I think, you know, what a lot of people talk about is media literacy as well, this idea that people understand their environment. And you can give them tools too, right? Like, people are talking about the idea that you should be able to switch between different recommendation algorithms, right? And that maybe people could design their own and share them. And there are lots of ways you can think about, like, educating people, but also giving them tools to have a better system. But I would point out that people are already doing this, and the people who are doing it best are like the alt-right. You know, they really understand how these algorithms work, and they coordinate, and they retweet and share and do all these things very well. So it can kind of become an arms race too.
Yeah, well, there's a big difference between the New York Times. You know that it is a newspaper in a certain political direction, but from the algorithm, we don't know what it's pushing or not. Like what you said, it's this doing the climate change it doesn't block climate change things, but it does block other things. It's super untransparent. I think that is a big...
Yeah, that's a huge issue right now.
Yeah.
And so I cited some research, right? But that research is really, really hard to do, and that's large part because the platforms don't want you to do this research.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to be one of the first big battles we're having right now, is how to give researchers access to data, because right now, as you say, we don't even really know. Like, so that research about the US elections in 2016, that was discovered like 15 months after the election actually took place, right? Like way too late to actually have a handle on it and criticize it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's step one.
Yeah. There's a question, yeah.
How comfortable do you feel on Twitter, since it is dominated by alt-right, trolls, and perhaps some journalists?
So I think actually for far-right organizing, for example, YouTube is really more central. And it's actually interesting to wonder like why certain platforms take on certain kind of cultures, right? But one of the interesting things about Twitter and most platforms is you get to design your own experience to a very large extent, right? So I just don't follow those guys and they don't follow me. And this is, it's interesting because you can say that it helps, it benefits people who are very educated and know how to work these platforms, and it doesn't benefit people who are less educated and get kind of stuck in low quality information bubbles, right? So Twitter is really awesome for academics because I can follow exactly the sources I want and get like really specialized, detailed feeds on these issues, right? And research shows that when it comes to fake news and misleading content, etc., sure, I shouldn't use that term, fake news, by the way, but when it comes to low-quality information, it's older people who don't get the internet, it's people with lower education levels, less media literacy, right? So it's really empowering for the active users and really problematic for the passive users.
Last question.
Okay, so I'm wondering, how do you do this kind of research? Are you like doing your own kind of computer science algorithms, or mainly like collecting statistics, or like how do you like kind of like which field this kind of research is?
So personally, I'm a lawyer by training, so I don't even know how Excel works basically. Like PowerPoint was a big challenge for me this weekend. But I work together with communication scientists and computer scientists. And so, for example, the way that research is done on these YouTube recommendations is you get a bunch of fake accounts, like bots, and you get them to just click on videos and then see what gets recommended next. And then you collect all that data, and then you start to see patterns, right? But if you look at, that's where the law comes in, if you look at Facebook's terms of service, which none of you have read, it says that this is illegal, right? And they will sue you, and they have sued people for doing that kind of research. And that is where these power struggles are happening right now.
So that should change.
Absolutely.
By the law.
Yeah, no promises yet for that. What should I say here? The lawyers of the university have been consulted, let me put it that way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Our next speaker just graduated from the KVK this year with his project Camera 1, right? Yeah. Please have a warm welcome for Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, so I'm Jean-Baptiste Castel. My practice is multidisciplinary, but I mainly focus on graphic design and filmmaking. I conceived my master's degree on nonlinear narrative from the Royal Academy of Art in Den Haag, and today I will be presenting my graduation project. So Camera 1 is a short movie in which the protagonist, a software camera, explores a furnished rendered apartment, all the while discovering a superpower. I'm going to start by showing what CGI SFX video is and how this new cinematographic genre has influenced this work. As you may know, in the 21st century, digital technology and economical globalization radically changed mode of production. Filmmaking has been transformed over the past 2 decades from an analog process to heavily digitalized one. Most Hollywood blockbusters today are hybrids between filmic and rendered image. Studio in charge of the special effect usually release a video called CGI VFX Breakdown, where they reveal the trickery behind the cinematic image and its production. Studios possess their own repertoire of method of disillusionment to reveal the trickery, or part of the trickery, behind the illusion of the special effect. These systems sometimes lie and deceive the viewer through an approach that focuses more on the spectacular rather than pedagogical. This movie contains, for example, exploded view, falling object, comparative line, time manipulation, layered perspective, exhibition of the stage, etc. Special effects from the more sublime to the invisible and mundane are revealed to the viewer in a technical and spectacular way, approaching reality from a different perspective. Possibilities outside of the boundary imposed by the cinematic medium are freely explored by designer. CGI VFX breakdown video show the true originality of digital media and fully assume their own medium. It questions its own tool on its relation to reality, by innovating a way of exhibiting the medium and its own materiality. So after this research, I asked myself, does the new possibility of digital media put the cinematic medium in crisis? How will this type of video evolve? Will cinema only become special effect, a cinema far beyond possible reality and natural perception, where time is fragmentable and where one can travel in stopped image to explore the artifacts that make up the construction? So I make this short movie, Camera One, that embody the language of this type of video. So in a navigation of showreel video and cinema movie, the protagonist, a software camera, explore a furnished rendered apartment, all the while discovering a superpower. This camera is superhuman, capable of traveling through space and time. She utilizes multiple temporality to move through filmic space in one seamless movement, without using cut in an infinite loop. The time is non-linear. We are living an impression of linearity. The space contains invisible temporal shift. These time shifts are displayed through the clock, the compa line, object, the sun, etc. Detached from the physical world, the virtual camera has the ability to reproduce reality in vivid detail. These details violate our sense of reality and perpetuate the illusion of the familiar. The reality is the illusion in the 3D render. This thing is a loop, shot in one take. The camera follows one pass, and each time she enters in the room, a copy of the previous camera movement is added. At the end, all the cameras coexist in the space without touching each other. It creates this phenomenon that Lacan defined as the mirror stage. When a kid sees himself in a mirror for the first time, the child develops a sense of the self. Before that, the child doesn't think of himself about an individual. He simply exists as an unified subject as a whole, with everything else around him. The software camera is normally invisible when the image is rendered. It can usually fly through objects, but this one is very clumsy and messed up the space by breaking object and push wall. And the sound that you hear emitted by the camera is the loud sound of my computer calculating the image. Because the space is non-Euclidean, I am using different temporality, sun, light, scale, gravity sources, etc. It was very technical and very challenging to render a video in one take by using a 3D program based on Euclidean logic. So I invite you to come to see Camera One because it will be screened at MACA, the Moving Art Center of Amsterdam, on November 2. And yeah, thank you for your attention, and thank you,
Yeah, in your video, the camera is not only a camera, but actually a character.
Yeah.
It's really leading the film. How did you come up with the character?
Yeah, I don't know. How did I come up?
Was it just like, did you think about it as a person? Like you said, it was a bit messy. Did you give him certain...
Yeah, I think I really wanted to play with this materiality between the software, because we also see this line that it's used in this kind of video to show different type of render. So I really wanted to like play with this materiality and immateriality. yeah, because it's a software tool, doesn't have any materiality.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it's not filled in. It's like the outline.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also said that you wanted to investigate what is the future of film in a way when there are these computer-generated images.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you found an answer by making this film?
I don't know.
Do you think that it will be like, will it take over a film, or is it just another?
Yeah, because we see in movie today. If you look at the mainstream movie, it's a lot of special effect, and the camera is just flying through a special effect to another one, and it's just like overwhelming. So yeah, probably.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Jean-Baptiste? Yeah?
I didn't hear you in the end well, but you said you're going to show the film somewhere?
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's at the MACA, the Moving Art Center of Amsterdam, on November 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How long is it?
It's 4 minutes 10.
Sorry?
4 minutes 10 seconds.
4 minutes and 10 seconds. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We're going to the last speaker before the break, and actually I want a big applause for her because she is one of the 3 nominees of Best Interactive for 2019, the Gouden Kalf Award. So please have a welcome.
Hi, my name is Tamara Shogaolu, and last night I had to summarize 10 years in 8 minutes, so now I have to summarize 10 years in 5 minutes. So I'll try to do it quickly. I'm going to talk to you guys about queer in a time of forced migration. I'm a storyteller. I like telling stories across mediums, and this is a multimedia series that I've been working on that started when I was living in Egypt during the Egyptian Revolution, and it follows the journey of 4 LGBT characters from the Middle East and different places in North Africa to present day in Europe. I was living in Egypt at the time, and an Egyptian journalist friend and I decided that we wanted to travel around collecting oral histories. Sorry, my throat has been killing me, so I'm chewing a mint. But we wanted to travel around collecting oral histories, and we decided to focus on interviewing and talking to marginalized people. So this meant women, ethnic and religious minorities, LGBT individuals, people with disabilities, etc., to get a feeling of what the revolution meant for them and what they hoped for the future of Egypt. And during that period, the voices that really stood out to me were the LGBT voices, because there was a sense of hope that things would change. And I don't know how many of you guys have followed the news, but there's been a big change or a big backlash against the LGBT community in Egypt. And in a way, they've been scapegoated and blamed for the revolution since then. So the journey, the Queer in a Time of Forced Migration, consists of a film, which is Half a Life, which premiered at the Museum of Modern Art a few years ago and follows the journey of an Egyptian activist, and it explores kind of what would make you want to leave your home. And then the second part, which is Another Dream, which is the piece that is playing here at the Netherlands Film Festival. Oh, sorry, this is going to play a little bit about Half a Life.
I love Egypt or if I hate Egypt. Sometimes I feel like I hate this country. I just want to move out.
Yeah, sorry. So this is Another Dream, which is a virtual reality. It's a project. It's a virtual reality animated documentary hybrid video game. So it utilizes gameplay to push the narrative forward, and it follows the journey of a lesbian couple from Cairo to the Netherlands, and it kind of explores that process of how do you make a home in a new place.
I don't like it, but we call it.
This is a little short excerpt. The piece. We mix different types of animation in it. 360 animation. Some of the animation was drawn and animated in virtual reality, and then we utilize gameplay elements to push the narrative forward between chapters, and it's scalable, so it exists in the form of an installation. Here you can see some of the examples of the animation where we started doing the concept art in 2D, and then it mixes 3D models with animation drawn and animated in virtual reality, like the characters here were drawn. And then the gameplay element comes from the words that you have to write in Arabic throughout to be able to move the story forward. And this was done because I started collecting the oral histories in Arabic, and then I had to kind of re-record some of them because it was 10 years of audio and the quality changed. So during that process, I decided I still wanted Arabic to be a part of it because of the way that the Arabic language has been politicized, and I wanted it to be a language of beauty because it's the language that my characters fell in love with. The installation process, oh sorry, what is this? I don't think there's a video there. I think it's supposed to be images. But I think you can go for it. Yeah. So the installation consists of a video art piece that was made in collaboration with an organization called Queer Faces, Migrant Voices, which teaches LGBT refugees how to make their own podcasts and stories, and it's mixed with footage that I've been collecting, and it also has a video projection component that is made up of a friend of mine who's an LGBT refugee who kept track of her journey through taking photos, and it starts with her first day in the Netherlands and throughout.
We hear a lot about refugees, immigrants, the migrant crisis.
This is the final part of the series that we're working on, which is audio-driven, and this kind of came to be because I was really impressed with the power of sound, and I wanted to create an experience that would allow people, that would be immersive and allow people to connect to an environment through sound and interact with visuals without it requiring screens. Like, you wouldn't need gadgets to trigger that AR, and it uses infrared technology and allows people to touch screens and reveal aspects of a story, or they're able to just sit and enjoy being in a 3D soundscape environment. This is really stressful saying all of this in 5 minutes, I agree. But yeah, so that's a little bit about it.
Yeah, so to make it clear, your series consists of 3 projects, right? Yeah. One you finished 3 years ago, I think?
Or? Yeah, the film, yeah.
Yeah, that was one film, and now another dream. That are there several stories in it, or is it one story?
No, it's just one story. So each part has a different character, and then the final part, which is the audio-driven, is an hour long, but broken into chapters. And it follows 4 characters, but it kind of, they've already been living in Europe. One of them goes back to Sudan for the first time, and it kind of loops back into the recent revolution there. So it brings it all kind of full circle on what the process is. And that piece, the last piece, kind of explores more of how they were able to fit in or make a place, and kind of some of the discrimination that they faced when they were here, even within the LGBT community and stuff like that.
And you made it as a VR experience with a game element. Why did you choose for that?
Well, for each section, I kind of really sat down and thought about what the characters were like and wanted that to come across in the projects that I was making. So the 2 women that Another Dream is based on are like super gamers, and it was very much a collaborative process where I sat down with them and I was like, I'm thinking about doing this. And they have a dog that they brought from Egypt to the Netherlands, and the dog is the center of their universe. So I knew that the dog needed to be part of it. And at one point I was exploring trying to tell the story from the perspective of their dog. And we played with different aspects of it. And because I felt like I was representing their story, they needed to have a say in how it was told. And they were really into the game element being a part of it.
And the VR thing, was it also giving you something that you couldn't do with normal film, for instance? Or?
Yeah, for sure. There's one scene in particular where we use like gaze activation, where they talk about being in a supermarket in the Netherlands and looking around and being the only people that weren't blonde and feeling like they were being stared at. And I don't know, as a person of color, like I've had that experience where I've been stared at, I've been the only one, and VR allows you to recreate that. And it was interesting during the testing process to see like who noticed that they were being stared at, and a lot of people of color were just like, oh, it's normal. Like they didn't notice that when you look at the characters, they turn around and stare at you. And mostly like white people noticed that they were being stared at and really like hit home in that sense.
Used at it at all.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that would be really challenging to do in traditional film. And in VR, you're really kind of able to enhance the message or the feeling of what your characters are saying to a different level, for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Tamara? Yes. No problem.
So, you've been collecting a lot of stories. You work together with a journalist. You have film footage. You have audio footage. And then you have all these different projects that you put all these stories in. I am wondering, what are the biggest challenges for you to discover the capabilities, but also the restrictions of all those different technologies? Because I can imagine that you need to develop new sets of criteria every time to figure out if the means satisfy the end of what you want to tell. So what's that process like for you? It must be very difficult.
For me, that's the fun part, because I mean, I started working on this 10 years ago, and VR wasn't really a thing there. It was like web documentaries, and I had so much content. I mean, I'd been following people. I had like over 60 interviews, and I just thought all of them really had something really important to say, and I thought that if I put them all in a traditional film, I would have to cut a lot of it out. And so I decided to start with the film to tackle the first issue of exploring, what would make you want to leave home. And then as technology advanced, I was just like, oh my God, there's so many fun things I can do to enhance this story and really tell it from different perspectives. And I mean, now it's to the point where like I can create my own platform or by mixing different types of technology to adjust it to my story. So I see it as like, I don't know, if you look at it from the animation perspective, you just have more colors to fill things in with. And it's really fun because you don't only think about, okay, this is my story, but how am I going to tell this story using like all of these fun toys that I have, Yeah.
No.
So I used to be an economist when I lived in the Middle East. I was doing a Fulbright there, and I was doing research. And then, so that was where my background on oral history came from. And then I studied film in the US at USC, and I've been a filmmaker for a while now. Yeah.
And you assemble teams to get all these skills on board, or you are self-taught? You also teach yourself how to...
It's a mix of things. Like, I animate myself, but I mean, this project is impossible for me to have like done 3 forms of animation and an installation together. So, I mean, I think film in general is a collaborative medium. So, yeah, I definitely work in teams. And I'm based in Amsterdam, and I have a production company there. Yeah.
2 last questions then. One in the back.
Wonderful presentation, first of all. How do you hope that your work influences or impacts the way you perceive refugees, the other person, or maybe just someone from a foreign country or in a different situation? How do you hope to achieve the things you want to achieve? What would be the ideal world through your art?
I mean, for me, this started because I saw a lot of my friends and people that I cared about having to leave Egypt. And these were people who were like, no, we're not going to leave. We're going to change Egypt. Nothing's going to happen. And then trying to find ways of escaping. And then I also, when I would listen to the news and how people talked about refugees, it was this like sort of pity thing that was happening. And that's not how I saw my friends or the people that I knew who are refugees. And I really thought it was important to include that. And then I also didn't like this narrative of scapegoating the LGBT community and kind of, like painting that way of looking at history or at this particular moment. And I think it was a really great moment to be in Egypt where people were just open and willing to talk about these things. And as far as impact, it started from wanting people to know about what was happening in Egypt, and then it grew into just, I don't know, the feedback from touring the project, because we've been at a lot of different places now, and the emails that I get from people just being happy to see themselves represented is really powerful, and that to me has been some of the most moving feedback, where people are just like, I've never seen myself like queer, like people of color, different types of people just being like, wow, this is a story told and I'm a human and no one's pitying me and I have self-respect, and to me that means a lot, to be honest. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
There was one question.
Yeah, maybe like it ties back a bit to the other questions, but I was just wondering to what extent does how people consume the media you create feed into how you create it. And for example, personally, I don't have much experience with experiencing VR content. That's why I was wondering, it seems to me a very solitary experience, whereas the content you create seems to would benefit from more of a communal experience. So how does that, how do you deal with that? Do you think about it? Do you think VR can be a communal
experience?
No, I think that's a great question. So during the process, that was something that I was thinking a lot about. I didn't want people to just kind of go into this world, experience it, and then peace out. So we made it a two-person experience where there's two different epilogues basically at the end, and one of them explores what would have happened if they didn't get asylum, like their plan for that, and then kind of what happens. And the objective of it is for people to discuss it with one another and actually have to engage or have conversations or really think about like what would I have done if that was my experience, or what did you connect to the most, etc. And then that kind of is what led me to create this new story room and like audio-driven experience, because I wanted it to be communal, but I think there's something really powerful in the intimacy that you have when you have someone's voice in your head. And I didn't want to take away from that, but I still think it's important to feel this like sharing, because I think that makes people want to talk to each other about these things, and especially subjects like this. I think that's important. Yeah.
Thank you. It's time for a short break. You can have a drink at the bar or go to the toilet. We'll be back in 50 minutes. Okay, we're gonna start again because we have to be a bit faster than we were before the break. Yeah, when the Nederlands Film Festival was inviting us, we knew one thing for sure: we need to have a speaker about TikTok. I'm not sure if you're familiar with TikTok. TikTok is a video app. It's like an Instagram for videos. You can scroll through a lot of videos. It's a very popular app, especially among younger people, I think. And it has been the most downloaded app in the beginning of the year. And I think it has many fascinating sides, and much more than I can tell you now, and also much more than you can tell in 5 minutes. And that's why we decided to invite someone to write an essay about TikTok as well. Popular culture scientist Linda Duits has written an essay for us about, and she's making a very nice link between China, where TikTok is coming from, and the copycat culture in China. If you are curious and you want to receive this essay in your personal mailbox, you can subscribe yourself to our newsletter, and you will receive it this Thursday. But with our next speaker actually is a TikToker, so he's making videos on TikTok. And I want a big applause for Sayed.
Hey Google, what's corkscrew in Dutch?
In Dutch, you would say kurkentrekker.
Kurkentrekker? My name is Sayed, artist, actor, designer, medicine student, a poet. I'm single. TikTok is a singy, dancey reincarnation of Vine. Kids, it's time to shine. What makes it so different, you might ask? It's really good in one task, storytelling. It's the better means to make a meme. One of these memes is just mean, shitting on horse girls. The bullies call them names, making mad jokes, fueling their own insecurities because their confidence is broke. Take it in. You need to see this. So I did a pro move. I did what big bros do, telling them it's okay. Don't bother what they say. Horse riding is a sport. You can have it your way. And all of them showed support. In the meanwhile, it was getting mad wow. Meeting Dutch TikTokers in a park, lighting a spark for a community of heroes Children with parents and teens coming out to see, full of glee, how these TikTokers might be in real life. See, the reason they're fans is because the stories we tell by being our silly selves. We resonate and they relate. The stories we believe in define our reality. Some of us find this out early, some late, some never. For example, by telling the story of Brexit in song and dance, we caused millions of people to care about a complicated political affair. They came for the abs, but they stayed for the facts. So to make it a reality, I created an IG. Paard means horse. Aardig means kind. I posted poetry, memes, and pictures of just a team, you know, having fun. And to do some research, a questionnaire that really exposed the effects of bullying. Really, it wasn't that rare. To be fair, one of the trolls even managed to bully there. Yeah, you can see it. It's like really ridiculous. So I assembled my Avengers, the Horse Girl Defenders. And we met Sulaiman Aslami, member of Child Rights Now, committee member in the lower house of parliament. Inspiring as it was, we crystallized our thoughts. If the world is a rough sea, then paardig must be like a surfboard to cruise it with. Because just like them now, we've been through the same. There's absolutely no shame. To help them now can help us heal as well. Makes us, you know, life better, a little bit less like hell. Our page swiftly grew, yet there was something I knew, that critique will always remain. There is duality in all of us. We seem so different, yet seem so the same. Angels and demons, what we focus on is what we will be. So when the joke was still made, people also still mad, but the fuel was less. A bit of balance was gained, the negativity reduced. We had a story to choose. TikTok is lit around the clock, from USA to UK, India to here. And the For You page is the ideal stage to inject memes into the mainstream. A question remains, how to use this machine? Next, I made some merchandise. It's a fluffy disguise so we nice people can recognize each other a bit more like brothers and sisters, and maybe lower the distance. Maybe lower the distance it takes to be able to see. Although we're different, we share a lot more than we may think. And, you know, on the brink of every story, the heroes, they find themselves. We struggle, we fall, but overcome it all. You do it right, or you just do it again. That's really me. I mean, I fucking love these. It's We can't change our world unless we change from within. Can't do it at once. The first step is just to simply begin. Our mind is our own. We have to stay healthy, both body and soul. If a bully starts shouting, be kind to their heart, because it's very likely that they don't like where they're at. So if they tell you horse riding isn't a sport, you just tell them, bullying is not a personality. Thank you.
Thanks. Because there's not so many time for questions, I'm immediately going to ask you, do you have a question for Syed? Yes.
I wonder, to what extent do you think that what you're doing is only possible on TikTok? Or is there like maybe tomorrow another platform that could?
Thank you for that question. The platform is merely the driving, just like our body is the carrier of our DNA, you know? It's more about the code, the information that's within it. So this could be used in VR to create a simulation where you're bullied and need to be more mentally resilient. But TikTok is the most direct means to reach the children. they will grow up with this platform for a couple of more years to come, and they will see everything that's going to happen on there. They are already formed by platforms that are already out there. So why do something in VR if it won't reach the public desire? This is why this platform is so full of opportunity and abundance right now.
Is this bullying of horse riding girls also more a problem on TikTok than it is on Instagram, for instance?
Funny thing, 2 days ago I met a student. I met a teacher, and I mean, we're all busy with our daily lives, but when you talk to a teacher, you actually find out what happens in the classrooms. And this is something that goes way beyond internet or TikTok. It's actually a cultural thing within the group of children. So it happens in the locker rooms, it happens in the classrooms, it happens almost everywhere.
Okay, very short.
I recently saw a TikTok from a girl about not being included into a group TikTok, and then she made a TikTok about the people that were making their group TikTok.
And it got
what I'm asking is, so you are on TikTok, but are you also aware of that you're also keeping people outside because you're on that platform, you know? There's like a...
I do know that. So my Instagram and Neem isn't just out there for nothing. I'm really open to collaborating. Do know I have a really, just like all of you, difficult life sometimes. But if anything can propel the message forward, if I can find a better carrier, I will definitely embrace that.
Thank you, Syed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thanks. We go to our next speaker. Please give it up for illustrator and animator Aisha.
So sometimes when I'm riding my bike and I take a wrong turn, then I just keep on riding even though I know it's the wrong direction, because I don't want anyone to notice that I made a mistake. So my name is Aisha Madu, and I'm an animation director, and I'm very easily embarrassed. And that feeling, embarrassment and shame, is something that I wanted to put to use in an animation. So yeah, I'm going to tell you about my web series. It's called Schroom, also kind of awkward in English. And it's a series about embarrassing stories from real people. Let's see. Yeah, so all episodes are in Dutch. I'm going to show you some very short fragments, so please bear with me. But I think they, translate pretty well. Yeah, so I started with this idea that I wanted to do something with embarrassment and also a bit documentary-like. So I pitched that idea to the VPRO, and I pitched it to the workshop. And I won, so I got to make it with a small budget. And this is the team from VPRO Dorst. And together we made a hotline that people could call. And we set up a form online so they could send us their stories. And when the hotline and the forum was live, slowly stories started to pour in, which was super cool and really interesting to see, like, all those different stories from all those different people. Let's see, yeah. And so we collected all these stories, and then I did an interview over the phone, and then made a short edit from that audio, and then made that into an animation. It was really special to have a complete stranger on the other line that's telling you their most intimate, super embarrassing stuff, and you never even met them. So it was really cool, especially as an animator, because that can be a lonely existence sometimes. So that was a cool factor in this process. You get to ask about all the juicy details. That's also really fun. Sometimes literally juicy. Yeah, so also after collecting all these stories, we started to see different patterns emerging, like what people are most embarrassed about. Usually it's poop, then sex, and then bodily fluids, and sometimes crossover between all those things. But we wanted to have a very diverse range of stories, so we ask for very specific things online, like embarrassing stuff about money or social things at work.
Ja, dat lukte dus niet. En toen
this is like an
zaten alle
awkward
twee
hug
mannen opeens
episode.
boven en hij pakte me zo om mijn middel vast. En ik pakte hem met mijn beide handen zo om zijn nek vast. En toen was dat de knuffel.
En
tampon
ik voelde
malfunction.
een soort van zakken. En ik voel gewoon dat er één echt uit gaat vallen. Dus ik probeer mijn benen te kruisen. In de hoop dat het dan niet gebeurt. Maar er valt ook nog één gewoon naast mijn voet. En keek ik naar beneden.
En het enige wat me natuurlijk lukte was de videocamera op slow motion krijgen. Het duurde een eeuwigheid tot ik hem uiteindelijk heb uitgekregen. En in mijn ooghoek zag ik mijn moeder, die boog zich voorover naar de hond. En die zei van ja, het is wat hè, Penny. Het was echt...
So the series did pretty well online, and I think because it's usually relatable and you cringe a lot, but it also makes you laugh, so that kind of makes it easier to digest, I think. And yeah, it was shared a lot. People started tagging each other like crazy, which was a nice surprise for me. So we got 14 million views in total, and it was posted on Facebook and YouTube. That were the two biggest platforms. Also Instagram. And yeah, when I set out to do this series, it wasn't like I was going to change the world or anything with poop jokes, but I think it's nice to be able to laugh at this, like, sometimes really difficult emotion, that's shame. It can really weigh down sometimes. And I still do this thing on the bike, like I haven't stopped. But it's nice to know that there are so many embarrassing stories and that everyone has one, and they're usually way worse than your own. So that's it. Thank you.
Is there one question for Aisha? Yes.
Are there any plans to any time make an English version, or maybe?
I am talking about that, yeah, but it's not sure yet. In the back, maybe?
Okay, because this was so short.
What's your favorite awkward story you've encountered?
My favorite awkward story? Oh, that's really difficult. But I do like the hug episode a lot, because I think it's like super relatable. And
because it was familiar to you?
It's very familiar. I think it's familiar to everybody. Like you have this handshake and it goes weird and you're not talking about it, but you both know that it happened. So I like that. It's very normal and it's very small, but you can really stretch it out and make it big.
No poop.
No, yeah. I also like the poop episodes. But
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speakers are also looking into the YouTube algorithm. Then, it's only one. But then more from a maker perspective. Please give it up for Jan.
So, what is it like to work as a maker within an algorithm like the one on YouTube? That's the question we've been researching together with Martijn and Media Lab Setup. So, when you open YouTube, you see a personalized list of videos recommended to you. It's the YouTube algorithm which is working its magic on you. And as a maker, you want to end up as highest as possible in this YouTube algorithm. One of the ways to do this is by using popular keywords. And if you use the right popular keywords, YouTube will rank you up higher. So we started collecting popular YouTube titles, and one of our friends noticed to us, like, hey, it looks like all these titles come out of a game of Cards Against Humanity. So we started to make our own card game based on Cards Against Humanity with some different rules and created titles with them. And some of the most interesting titles of them we chose, like the ones we wanted to see a video of. We chose those titles and we sent them to script writers on Fiverr. So Fiverr is a website where people offer jobs for sometimes even just €5. And they would write a complete YouTube script for us for a complete video. So by doing all these things, we figured out we basically made our own algorithm to make videos within this algorithm of YouTube. So we were really excited about these titles we sent. We were excited to see what these scriptwriters did with us. To be honest, we were a bit disappointed sometimes. Yeah, they didn't all meet our expectations, but some of the other ones were actually really nice storylines, but they were written like it was a huge production. So all of a sudden we had to start asking questions like, how are we going to get Kim Kardashian in our video? How are we going to shoot some penguins walking on the streets? And how are we going to find budget to find a 3-second scene in Afghanistan? So we tried to figure out those questions, but we also started to realize something else. We started to feel a bit like a robot. Because all the creative work had already been done by our algorithm. And we felt like we were used by the system to just create the videos for us. So, yeah, we didn't really feel like making those videos anymore. We were a bit blocked in our creative process, and we had to figure something out. So we went thinking, and we were like, what if instead of reading what is written in the script, read what is not written in the script? Like, search for missing guidelines. Search for things that are not really specified. Search for places where we could put in our own creative touch. I will give you an example. One of the videos was called... now I have to think really well what this was called. It was called How to Be Invisible Running to a Wall Explained. It was about Amy and Jack having a drink at a bar. But yeah, you see a part of the video here. But nothing was written about how this Jack actually looked like, just that he was able to be invisible. So we decided to turn him into a bottle of Jack Daniels. And by doing that, the entire story changed without changing any words to the script. All of a sudden, it was about Amy and her drinking problem. Another example, the video How to Be a Penguin in the Street gameplay. Just a single sentence in the script was written about seeing a penguin dance on a television. But we loved this image, so we decided to make over 1/3 of the video into a penguin dancing movie. So for us, it felt like we found a way to work within this algorithm. We got the fun back in producing these videos. And these videos, most important, felt like they were a part of us. It was part of our creativity. So, answering the question, what is it like to work as a creative in a self-made algorithm like the one on YouTube? Well, if you don't like to have creative freedom, if you like to be told what to do, it's amazing, perfect place for you. But if you're more like us and you like to have creative freedom and make a product that you really stand behind, then it can be really frustrating. But however, if you start working together with the algorithm and find space between the guidelines, it can be really nice and it can bring up real new ideas.
Thank you. Who has the question? Yeah.
Did it work? Like, did you really get a lot of views?
We didn't get a viral yet. They're also just posted on YouTube, and we have to adjust some setting actually to really put them in. But it was also not the main goal of the project to actually get these virals. It was more, it was more about how it is as a maker to try to get these virals.
What was the most popular among the series? You made several,
Infuse
right?
right now. Infuse right now, you mean?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
We can check it all out, right? Because they're
on
YouTube on the setup account.
It's on the setup YouTube account, yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're going to check it out.
All right.
Thanks. Our next two speakers will guide us through the world of VR chat. Please give it up for Clara and Emily.
It works. Okay, VR Chat was created in 2017 and allows for anybody with VR equipment to log on and talk to anybody else in the world in VR. And it's open source, so most of the worlds and characters that you will see in the game have been created by its users. This is the hub, this is your starting point. You start as a default character.
And what you need at first is to find an avatar. So to find an avatar, you go to an avatar maze. It's a pre-made world made by users. So you can take a pre-rigged body, or you can also create one yourself with a different software, but it's way more difficult. Like in real life, people behave in the way they see you. So, which is nice in VR Chat is that you can be anything or anyone. It's really up to you. There's some people that have extra sensors on their ankles and waist, which allow them to do full body movement tracking, and it's really then a really uncanny experience to see them move.
Towards a peaceful sky. All the movement, one finger's way.
A lot of people perform some sort of role play. So if you realize that most of the avatar cute girls are actually men cuddling and kissing, you have to accept that. You have to respect them and never break the fantasy.
You'll also sometimes, while exploring worlds, find a user that's fast asleep. Sometimes that's accidental, but a lot of the time it's intentional. People will find a place that they find comfortable and they will fall asleep there. So in this case, it's a hotel room. You'll see that there are also a lot of worlds that are modeled off of real-world places, and they'll act and function in the same way. So you'll have the cathedral, or a bar, or amusement parks, zoos, museums. And then you'll also notice that there are a lot of people from the same nationality that will gather in certain worlds that have maybe architecture or music that relates to their culture. So here you'll hear Japanese, or in this other world, a lot of people speaking Thai. So it's very important to note that the atmosphere of a world does do a lot for how people will interact in it. So in a more peaceful world like these, for example, people will tend to be more introverted and introspective.
But I hand sculpted, okay, using a program called Medium, which is available for the Oculus Rift. And obviously, I used it to create my avatar, and I used it to create this whole world.
That was Paul Marcano. He's a world builder in VR Chat, and he spent a lot of time building crazy worlds that stretch the capabilities of VR, and he told us a lot about what goes on in there.
People behind their anonymous avatar, they open up a lot. So they talk about their deep thought, their secrets in ways they wouldn't do in real life. And we heard some interesting conversation.
I am very bipolar.
Do you get are your highs and lows, are they like manic and depressive, or are they more like angry and depressed?
Because I never told you.
I'm bipolar as well. So Seymour, a quite famous YouTuber guy, is famous for posting deep emotional conversation that he has with users on VR Chat. And it's also really intense. And talking about feelings, this is Psych, a real psychologue that holds monthly therapy on VR Chat. So he uses the platform as a safe healing space where his patients and people talk about their mental disorder and anxiety in public.
What's beautiful about VR Chat is that it's like you slowly start to realize that you're already doing the things that you fear. And it's like almost like a gateway to socialization in real life. And I think these are the kinds of stories that are really powerful.
So, as for the future of VR Chat, it has so much potential. But the people that we spoke to in there have told us that with the release of the new, cheaper, and more accessible and easy to use VR equipment, there will be more people coming to VR Chat. But if it wants to survive, if it wants to keep running, it'll need to monetize in some way that also preserves the things that make it authentic, the things that are so special about it, like the often copyright infringing fan bases on there and the creative community there, and the fact that it's pretty much completely unmoderated. Thank you.
A question? Yes.
You said there's many different worlds. How do you navigate from one world to the other? Is there an overall universe? Or?
Well, there are over 50,000 worlds there and counting. And there's a menu that you can pull up so you can navigate through them. But also when you're there with friends or something, you can drop a portal. So then you can let everybody come in with you.
Yeah, last one.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but what's your relationship with the archive?
It's just that we discovered the video of Simon, you know, the guy that posts the videos about conversation that he has, and we thought, whoa, what is this? What is this piglet saying that his parents are horrible? And we were really, yeah, we really thought, okay, we need to know more about this world. So we did a documentary about it. We interviewed actually the YouTuber. We interviewed someone that built worlds there. We had conversation with people. And yeah, we just realized that it's just as real as our real world here. We just wanted to not make fun of people that we usually make fun because they are like nerds, they are too much on internet, or you know they gather in, yeah. So yeah, that's what.
Can we see the documentary?
Yes. No. We had trouble to post it on Vimeo, but it's going to be out in a few weeks. So it's 14 minutes, a bit more, and you have more about the interviews and all the weird conversation we heard and how people use it. So you can check it on our Vimeo, our name.
Yeah, the name. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, you can put it there. Then we're going to our last speaker, who is sharing 20 live stream gems. Please give it up for Stëfan.
Hello. Okay. Some fragments, recordings, and notations influenced by Elias Canetti, already mentioned earlier today, Book Against Death and Crowd and Power. These heroes and heroines, they always know who's watching. The blue globe irritates him, for it is all boundaries. Anything which preserves distances threatens him. His freedom is crossing these boundaries. He fucks the pillow and watches back.
Banana, banana, banana oil. Banana, banana, banana oil. Banana, banana, banana oil.
For the individual, the atmosphere is one of loosening. There is no common identical goal which people have to try and attain together. The feast is the goal, and they are there. The destiny, in large part, an equality simply of indulgence and pleasure. His spirit animal in a cage. And time just passed the quarter to death. Oh. Whenever he observes an animal closely, he feels as if a human sitting inside is making fun of him. Placed in a setting where he dies an ultraviolet death in the middle of the night, silently he yells. And every time, before each resurrection, she defends herself. She experiences the death of an animal as an animal. and keeps being trapped in cosmic boredom. Chanel, Oceanus, abundance, turmoil. Chanel, Oceanus, abundance, turmoil. Chanel, Oceanus, abundance, turmoil. People could flee together like herds of animals in danger. An active crowd fear of this kind is the common collective experience. Whenever she observes a crowd of animals closely, she feels as if human beings are sitting inside, ignoring her. For the individual, the atmosphere is one of loss. There is no common identical goal with people, which people have to try and attain together. The feast is the goal, but they're not there. And time just passed death. The most awful crowd imaginable is a circle of only acquaintance. These heroes and heroines, they always know who's watching. The blue globe irritates her, for it is all boundaries. Anything which preserves distances threatens her. The freedom she is crossing, the freedom is the crossing of these boundaries, and Earth decides to not carry her anymore. Well, these heroes and heroines, they always know who's watching. Actually, the last part is one because I forgot one slide, so I did this today. In the background, you hear, it's quite weird. I didn't expect it, but I had the TV on the German cooking shows, so that's a bit of the last combination as a finisher. Thanks.
Thanks. The question.
What is your Google search query? Like how? What is your process?
How to find these things? Well, I started this project. I think 1 year and a half ago. We made the live, this kind live that we were looking for live streams. Lillian was one of our seekers.
You wanted to make a live show, a TV show about live streams, right?
Yeah, a live talk show about live streams through live streams. So there's several platforms you can use. YouNow we had, which was for teenagers 1 year and a half ago. Sunday when I checked it, it was just the fat guy jerking off. So this changed. Then this guy on Periscope, the second one, who was screwing this pillow. There's I don't know. It's just really accidentally. So there's certain platforms you can check. Then there's hashtags. Hashtag Sleeping Squad. You always get something there.
Facebook has one?
Yeah, Facebook has it, but I don't have Facebook now anymore. So then you can search on location, but the one that were all about landscapes, this is just several platforms that just combine live stream cameras you get access to. I think it's called insecam.org. Insecam, and then there's several ones, cams of the world or streams of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, how you prepared this presentation?
Yeah, that's the weird fun of that, yeah. Yeah, but I'm not really looking for something. So it's always, I mean, I didn't know what I would show today because Sunday I just watched 13 hours of live streams, and then sometimes you're too slow to record them, so this is another part. No, I leave it totally. The unexpectedness of the live streams is so nice. So I also had really some quite, I think, awkward silence is the term, that I was too short. Then you look at this thing, but this is just what you get with live streams. You get entertainment, you get something scary, you get something silent, you get nothing.
Is it also kind of meditative? to watch?
No.
No. Okay.
No. I don't know. It's somewhat too much excited. It's excitement included that it should. No, it's not really meditative. Even the sleeping one, you are so there's some kind of tension that you think, what is happening? You have half of a face, or you see a lamp or a ceiling in a nice corner, and nothing happens. But somehow you are still too much. I am in a tension that you think something is happening there. And sometimes it does. So, but.
Okay, thank you, Stëfan. Yes. And thank you for coming. It was very nice to have you here. And you're, of course, welcome to join another event. I think we have to soon leave this room, so please have a drink at the bar and have questions to speakers that you couldn't ask. And have a great evening. Thank you.
Just a quick note from the Netherlands Film Festival. We would like to thank them for participating with us in this festival and working with us. We're very happy to work with you. And also on behalf of NFF, I would like to welcome you all to our professionals party where you all get a free drink. It's at the Winkel van Sinkel and we're very happy to have you there. Thank you.